his place. He is the only begotten of the Father, high and lifted up, because that is his place. His place, then, as the first begotten into the world, is worth all the praises of eternity. As we saw before, he is God all by himself, my friends, for he needs none other. He needs no other introduction. His presence brooks no argument. So too does his presence set forth his position, a place like none other, as Isaiah says, high and lifted up, so that the train of his glory filled the temple. For this cause then do the angels serve him, these spirits and flames of fire before God. See them now as those filled with his power. They occupy a place too of service before him, just as they ought. He is holy, my friends. Just one side of him alone will tell you that, with his garments washed white in the blood of the Lamb. He is God all by himself. So it seems there is none other to stay his hand, or to say, "Wherefore are you doing this?" For where he walks, none can let, and there are none thereby to hinder. Let them come now, these angels and ministers who serve him hereby. By his power, then, he does all things well. Nor is it merely to darkness and disorder that these are called to serve him, and so burn out of their own accord. But there is rather a throne to be seen behind it all, this service to whom these are called. Let us look now at what of his throne. The throne is very much the place of God, just as his kingdom is eternal. So too has his throne been founded forever. And by his power, the scepter of righteousness is the scepter of his kingdom. It is as a scepter was in old days, held out in the hands of the king. And those with it had a new request came in to speak to the king, of whether he would hear them or no. Yet our God is not like that. He is God all by himself. He is a good Father all the time, and he is righteous as just who he is. But there is no unrighteousness to be found with God, none, and whatsoever, not even for a moment. So then see now, the one who makes his angel spirits, his ministers a flame of fire, to what purpose he does so. It's not just a self-serving purpose, it's not just a purpose that they go out into the world and cause havoc as those that have rebelled, but rather are they functioning as a scepter of his righteousness, an extension of his power, of his hand, of his mighty arm. See, he can save by his outstretched arm, because he's God all by himself. But at the same time, how big of a God does he have to be in order to stretch out his hand and say, "Here you are, I will send you," to his servants who exist ready and waiting to serve him. So too does this throne of his reign forever and ever. Throughout all time it is seen. It reigns forever and ever because of its nature. There is nothing corruptible which will be thrown down and that by itself pass away, but rather it's an eternal foundation, if you will, that never gets busted, that never gets called out, that never gets caught in a lie or a scandal. For one thing we know, that our God cannot lie, he cannot deny himself, and so it is in opposition to his very nature. Thus he reigns undefeated. He will never be put down or be found a liar, not by any man, not by any organization, any power, any authority. It will be made as nothing before him, because in that they are not, he is. He is more and more God all by himself. It is an everlasting foundation, if you will, far different from the ones on which you and I so often fall. Notice then the nature of his filling these spirits and fires with that of the eternal, even our God himself. It is not for nothing that he would tell the instructions all throughout Levitical times, "Be you holy as I am holy." The instructions were given to the priests to be holy as our God is holy, and to the people to serve him well as instruments of righteousness unto the Lord. So his throne then is built on truth and justice, with the holiness and judgment thereof. It seems then that these were created to a holy purpose, even that of service before his throne. See them now, these ones, by which our God lights up the darkness of this world, and so brings forth his kingdom. How good God must be, to take what were once destined as instruments of wrath for the day of judgment, and those that had once rebelled, but now he stand before him as nothing more than spirits and flames of fire, ready to do his will, ready to do his bidding, and take on his work. Now they are the rebellious nothing more than breaths on the wind, and those that once would not, and were not called the people, and they now called the people and children of God. And so, like a flame of fire that once burned down a forest, set everything in its path ablaze, now are they just a pillar that speak to the holiness of God. Remember how there's a pillar of fire by day, a pillar of cloud by day, and over the tabernacle in the wilderness so long ago, and there was a pillar of fire by night, such as the picture in these tent of our earthly temples, this earthly body that is being destroyed. How our God makes his home with his people. You know, so often it's who God is, but so too this is who we are, as servants and children of God. See them now, these ones by which our God lights up the darkness of this world, and so brings forth his kingdom. The only right response it calls forth then is for worship. It is worth praying indeed for his will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. So do the nations and kingdoms of this world worship, for they have been his all along. It seems then we too should as worship him too, as servants and people of our God. Until next time, on Voices of Hope.